Hey guys, Rose Pants here, back with another highlight from the Pot book, A Complete Guide to Cannabis. We are actually winding down this series. This is our second to last video. It's going to be chapter 36, Patients Out of Time. This chapter is an interview conducted by Julie Holland herself with the two founders of Patients Out of Time, Byrne and Lynn Mathre. I don't know if he's in the shot or not, but this episode is joined by my cat Luke Skywalker, who will not leave me alone. He just really needs some attention. So he's going to be sitting in with us. POT, or Patients Out of Time, was formed as an organization meant to be an educational entity. It was formed around patients themselves and doctors and nurses. The first thing they did as an organization was create an 18-minute long video known as Marijuana as Medicine. It featured 5 patients that were getting medical marijuana from the government, and they asked them a series of questions. This video was very widespread, it caught a lot of attention, and eventually more and more organizations were attaching themselves and their names in support of Patients Out of Time. Al says that we thought with all these professional medical organizations agreeing with us, certainly the government would understand that this is not a joke and this is not a legalization effort, but they continue to run with blinders on. In 2002, they petitioned the DEA to reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1, and of course the DEA gave them the most ridiculous runaround and never really agreed to anything. It started with the DEA having 3 years to make this decision, and the way that Al describes it, he says, they took 3 years to the day, and their decision was to pass the petition to the Department of Health and Human Services with merit. And then, once it got passed down to that department, they gave him another shuck and jive, saying you have not met the requirements of law. They said the response to the petition has to be signed by the Surgeon General, and what do you know, we just don't have one right now. Patients Out of Time responded, well, there's an acting Surgeon General, isn't there? And they're like, no, it's not the same. Sorry, we can't sign that. Through all that shucking and jiving, Al comes through and brings up a really great point. The government really shouldn't deny it any longer. Dr. Getman has put in front of them the scientific information that is there. I believe Patients Out of Time, as a principal petitioner, has done its job and has accomplished its mission in regard, which is education. All I'm waiting for now is the politicians to be able to learn how to read. So essentially, they really didn't get anywhere with the rescheduling. We still are constantly putting multiple petitions through multiple avenues to try and have it rescheduled, because at Schedule 1 it has no medical value and we can't really do the studies that we need to. The next major topic of discussion for this interview is the existing program that the United States government has to grow marijuana and supply it to a certain group of medical patients who do seem like they need it. Like the government will agree to that. They will give it to these certain people, but no one else. Prior to reading this interview, I was familiar with this governmental program, but I didn't know exact details and how frightening they really are. Julie infers that it is in the government's best interest to give them lousy pot, and Al responds saying, the federal government probably hopes that these guys in the compassionate use program die, and there's only 4 left, so they're getting their wish. And the age of this stuff is incredible. Back in 2007, the canisters of joints were often marked 1988 or 1992 or something. That is ridiculously old and is extremely unacceptable. Our wonderful government then realized, uh-oh, people are actually finding out about this. So they completely shut the program down. Lynn explains that when they did, the 5 had grown into 15 patients who were getting medicine. I don't know for sure, but 33 or 35 patients had been approved but had not yet gotten their medication. Hundreds of applications were waiting to be approved, and that's when the first Bush administration said, we're closing it down and you'll continue to get your medicine, nobody else will. That was in 1992. By 1995, there were only 7 or 8 patients. As we speak today, there are only 4 left alive. And this book was published in 2010. I don't know exactly if anyone has died from that list of the 4 left. Absolutely ridiculous, regardless, that this program existed in the first place, and then once people started to find out about it, it was like, yes, please help me too. Like, let me live longer and happier with this disease. And they're like, no, sorry, can't do that. But even with all of that and all of the crap that they were throwing at them, they could still not deny that this medicine was not working to its fullest ability. They put these patients through a myriad of tests and studies to find out how exactly they were reacting to the marijuana as medicine. I think Barbara or somebody might have had a little mild bronchitis, which supports the idea that dry old cannabis, which burns a little hotter, is rougher on the lungs. She continues to say that they'd gotten rid of so many other medications, their health was so much better with the marijuana. George McCone, with his Nail-Patel syndrome, which is a very rare disease, is in his 50s now, and they usually don't live that long. Medical marijuana is like a medication for survival. That is actually where they leave the interview off. That is like the last sentence of it. It's kind of a blunt ending, but still so much information is packed into this interview. I had not heard of the organization POT, Patients Out of Time, prior to having the book, the POT book. So I was very grateful for it, and that's why I wanted to highlight it as one of the chapters that I went through for this series. Like always, now that we have filled our brain with cannabis information and news, we can fill the rest of our cannabinoid system. Join me next week for the last edition of highlighting a key chapter from the POT book. Next week we'll be featuring chapter 40, a cost-benefit analysis of legalizing marijuana. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.